I didn't know the man in the blood-spotted white shirt was Seoul's most feared executioner. I only knew that the footsteps echoing behind me had followed me for 3 days straight, and tonight they were finally closing in. The humidity made my natural curls stick to my neck as I ran. My knuckles were scraped raw from yanking open rusted doors, searching for any escape from the neon-drenched maze of Seoul's backstreets. I was an English teacher. My biggest concern last week was grading verb conjugations. Now I was running from a man whose eyes felt like needles in my spine every time I left my apartment. I stayed calm at first because I convinced myself I was overreacting, that foreign women like me just drew attention in Seoul, that my paranoia was making me see threats where there were none. I stayed calm until tonight, when I saw him waiting outside my building with a phone pressed to his ear, speaking rapid Korean I couldn't understand. His smile was cold, transactional. That's when survival instinct kicked in. I bolted out the back exit in yesterday's jeans and a wrinkled sweater. No plan, no phone, just pure terror. I made it 4 blocks before the footsteps grew louder. Rain started to fall, blurring the neon signs into streaks of pink and blue. I was trapped between a shuttered convenience store and an alley that stank of spoiled meat. That's when I saw it. A steel door propped open by a broken bottle, the service entrance to some exclusive club. I didn't hesitate. I shoved through, stumbling into flickering fluorescent light and concrete. And then I saw him. A man in an immaculate black suit jacket stood over a kneeling figure. His white high-collar shirt splattered with crimson. Dark ink crawled up his neck, tattoos covering what looked like old scars. His eyes were sharp, predatory, fox-like. They locked onto mine the instant I burst through the door. 3 other men in suits froze mid-motion. The room went silent except for my ragged breathing. I had walked into an execution. I opened my mouth to scream. Before sound could escape, his hand clamped over my lips, firm but not cruel. He pulled me backward into a narrow ventilation recess, his body shielding mine as shouts erupted from somewhere deeper in the building. Rival gang members, a breach, chaos. His breath was steady against my ear as he pressed me deeper into the shadows, his hand still covering my mouth. Flashlight beams swept the corridor, voices barking orders in Korean. He should have killed me. Now I saw his face. I was a witness, a liability. Instead, he held me there in the dark, silent and calculating, waiting for the danger to pass. When the voices faded, he finally released me. I gasped for air, trembling, expecting a bullet or a blade. Instead, he studied me with those fox-like eyes, dangerous, unreadable, and made a decision that would shatter both our worlds. He whispered in accented English, low and absolute. You run, you die. You scream, you die, you stay with me, you might survive. The rain hammered against the building as he pulled me toward a side exit, away from the execution room, away from the stalker still hunting me outside, and into a prison I didn't yet understand. Subscribe to see how this unfolds and comment where you're watching from. I will love to say hello to you just to know how far our story is going. His eyes met mine in the dim light, sharp, calculating, utterly devoid of mercy. This was the man who'd been standing over a victim seconds before I interrupted. This was someone who made people kneel. Quiet, he said in English, the word clipped and absolute. You want to live? You stay quiet. I nodded because what else could I do? My legs were trembling so badly I wasn't sure I could run even if he let me. He pulled me further into the shadows, navigating the narrow space with the confidence of someone who'd memorized every exit, every hiding spot. We emerged into a storage corridor lined with industrial shelving, cleaning supplies, stacked liquor boxes. The fluorescent lights here were dead, leaving only the emergency exit signs to cast everything in sickly red. "There's a man following you," Jin-sun said, not a question. "The one you ran from." "How did you ran like someone being hunted, not from the law, from something personal." He moved toward a service elevator, pressing the call button with a knuckle, careful not to leave prints. "That man is outside, still searching. If I put you on the street, he finds you in 5 minutes." "So, what are you going to do with me?" My voice cracked on the last word. The elevator dinged. The doors slid open. He gestured for me to enter, and when I hesitated, his expression hardened. "You saw my face. You saw what I do. In my world, witnesses don't walk away." He stepped into the elevator, forcing me to make a choice. But tonight, I have bigger problems than one foreign woman who got lost. So you have 2 options. Come with me and stay breathing, or take your chances with whoever's hunting you out there. I looked back down the corridor, half expecting to see my stalker's silhouette appear. 3 days of being followed. 3 days of that cold, transactional smile. 3 days of feeling like prey. I stepped into the elevator. Jin-sun hit the button for the sub-basement. As the doors closed, I caught a glimpse of my reflection in the polished steel. Wild-eyed, disheveled, my natural hair a mess from running through the rain. I looked like someone who'd already lost. The elevator descended in silence. When the doors opened, we entered an underground parking garage that smelled of concrete and exhaust. Luxury vehicles lined the space, each one probably worth more than I'd earn in 5 years of teaching English. Jin-sun led me to a black sedan with tinted windows opening the rear door. "Get in. Stay down." I climbed inside, my body folding into the space between the seats and the floor. The leather smelled expensive, recently cleaned. Jin-sun slid into the front passenger seat. A driver I hadn't noticed before started the engine without a word, pulling out of the garage with practiced smoothness. We drove, for what felt like an hour but was probably 20 minutes. I stayed curled on the floor, muscles cramping, mind racing through every terrible scenario. When the car finally stopped, Jin-sun opened the door and pulled me out into another parking garage. This one cleaner, quieter, clearly residential. "Where are we?" "Somewhere safe, and temporarily." He guided me toward a private elevator, his hand on my elbow. Not rough, but firm enough that I knew running wasn't an option. "You do exactly as I say. No questions, no noise. Understand?" I nodded. The elevator rose smoothly, climbing higher than I could count. When the doors opened, we stepped directly into a penthouse apartment that looked like it belonged in an architecture magazine. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked Seoul's glittering skyline. Minimalist furniture in blacks and grays, everything pristine, cold, calculated. Jin-sun locked the door behind us. Multiple locks, I noticed, heavy ones. "Sit," he said, gesturing to a leather sofa. I sat. He disappeared down a hallway, returning moments later with a first aid kit and a towel. He tossed the towel to me. "You're bleeding." I looked down. Oh, my knees were scraped. From when I'd stumbled in the alley, blood seeping through my jeans. I pressed the towel against them, hands shaking. Jin-sun removed his suit jacket, revealing the blood-spotted white shirt underneath. He unbuttoned his cuffs with mechanical precision, rolling up his sleeves. The tattoos on his neck continued down his forearms, intricate dragons and geometric patterns covering old scars. He washed his hands at the kitchen sink, then poured himself a drink from a crystal decanter. Whiskey, probably expensive. He didn't offer me any. "What's your name?" he asked. "Tanya." "Tanya." He repeated it like he was testing how it felt. "How long have you been in Seoul?" 8 months. I teach English at a private academy in Gangnam." "And the man following you?" I swallowed hard. I don't know who he is. And he started showing up outside my building 3 days ago, just watching, smiling. Today he was waiting with his phone, talking to someone. I got scared and ran. Jinsun studied me over the rim of his glass. You ran into a restricted area. You saw something you shouldn't have seen. Now you're here. He set the glass down. I need to figure out what to do with you. The weight of those words settled in my chest like ice. You're going to kill me. If I wanted you dead, you'd be dead. He moved to the windows, staring out at the city. But keeping you alive complicates things. My men saw you. They know you're a witness. If they find out I let you go, they'll question my authority. If my enemies find out you exist, they'll use you to get to me. So I'm a prisoner. You're alive. Turn to face me, his expression unreadable. That's more than most people get when they walk into my business uninvited. He crossed to where I sat, reaching into his pocket. I flinched, but he only pulled out his hand, palm up. Phone, ID, anything that can track you, give it to me. I don't have my phone. I left everything when I ran. Passport? Wallet? At my apartment. He studied me, trying to determine if I was lying. Apparently satisfied, he stepped back. Good. That makes this easier. No one knows where you are. No one can call you. For now, you don't exist. He walked to a door off the main living area, opening it to reveal a bedroom. Sparse, clean, with its own bathroom. You stay in here. You don't touch the windows. You don't make noise. You don't try to leave. His eyes locked onto mine. You scream. You die. You leave. You die. Those aren't threats. They're facts. I understand. I nodded, throat too tight to speak. There's a bathroom. Food in the kitchen. Take what you need. He paused at the doorway. I have business to handle. I'll be gone most of tomorrow. Don't make me regret keeping you breathing. The door closed. I heard multiple locks engage from the outside. I was alone. The first night, I didn't sleep. I sat on the edge of the bed, listening to every sound, the hum of the refrigerator, the distant wail of sirens, the occasional creak of the building settling. My mind replayed the moment I'd burst through that service door, the shock in Jin Sun's eyes, the blood on his shirt, the kneeling man whose fate I'd never know. I was trapped in a luxury prison, held captive by a man who killed people for a living. When dawn finally broke, some pale light filtering through the blackout curtains I hadn't dared open, I forced myself to move. The bedroom had a small attached bathroom with expensive toiletries I didn't recognize. I showered, scrubbing away the grime and fear, watching pink-tinged water swirl down the drain from my scraped knees. In the mirror, I barely recognized myself. The terror from last night had carved itself into my features, dark circles under my eyes, a tightness around my mouth. I looked like someone who'd seen too much. The locks on my door clicked. I froze, heart hammering. Jin Sun entered carrying a bag. He'd changed into fresh clothes, black slacks and a crisp charcoal shirt, his neck tattoos visible above the collar. He looked like he'd slept perfectly, unbothered by having a hostage in his home. Here. He tossed the bag onto the bed. Clothes. Approximate size. Wear them. I opened the bag. Simple items. Leggings, t-shirts, a sweater, underwear still in packaging, all black or gray. All my size somehow. How did you? I'm good at estimating. He leaned against the door frame. There's food in the kitchen. Help yourself. Don't waste anything. Can I ask you something? His eyes narrowed. Depends on the question. The man I saw last night, the one kneeling, is he dead? No, not yet. Jinsun's expression didn't change. He stole from the wrong people. His punishment is still being decided. By you? By people much worse than me. He pushed off the door frame. I have business today. While I'm gone, you stay inside. You don't touch the phone. You don't go near the windows. Clear? What if something happens? What if there's a fire or... Then you burn quietly. He said it so matter-of-factly that it took a moment to register he wasn't joking. This isn't a negotiation, Tanya. You're alive because I allow it. Don't make me reconsider. He left, the locks engaging behind him with brutal finality. Days blurred together. Jin-sun came and went on a schedule I couldn't predict. Sometimes he'd be gone for 12 hours. Sometimes he'd return within 2, change his shirt, make a phone call in rapid Korean and leave again. He rarely spoke to me beyond instructions. Eat, sleep, stay quiet. I spent my time exploring the limited space I was allowed. The kitchen was stocked with expensive ingredients I didn't know how to use. The living room had a shelf of books, all in Korean. The windows showed a city I couldn't reach. Oh, people living normal lives while I existed in this suspended reality. On the 4th day, Jin-sun came home just after midnight. I'd fallen asleep on the sofa, too anxious to stay in the bedroom. I woke to the sound of running water and found him at the kitchen sink, washing blood from his hands. I should have been terrified. Instead, I found myself weirdly numb to it. This was who he was, what he did. The blood was just part of the pattern. He noticed me watching. Go back to sleep. Whose blood is that? No one you need to worry about. Is it from the man I saw? The one who was kneeling? Jin-sun dried his hands slowly, deliberately. Why do you care? Because I saw him. Because maybe if I hadn't burst in, things would have been different. Nothing would have been different. He cut me off. You didn't change anything. And you just became another variable I have to manage. He tossed the towel aside. His fate was decided long before you showed up. I stood from the sofa, suddenly angry. So what's my fate? You keep me here forever? I just disappear and no one asks questions. No one's looking for you. The words hit harder than I expected. He was right. I had no family in Seoul. My coworkers at the academy barely knew me. I'd been so isolated, so focused on just surviving each day, that I'd built no real connections. If I vanished, it would take weeks before anyone noticed. Jin-sun must have seen something in my face because his expression shifted, just slightly, a crack in the cold facade. The man following you. Tell me everything you remember about him. I described my stalker, middle-aged, average height, always wearing a gray jacket. Oh, the way he'd smile when he knew I'd spotted him. The phone call outside my building. Jin-sun listened without interrupting. When I finished, he pulled out his phone, scrolling through images. He turned the screen toward me. This him? I looked at the photo and my blood went cold. It was him, my stalker. But in this image, he wore a police badge. That's Detective Park, Jin-sun said. He works for the Iron Snakes, rival syndicate. He pocketed his phone. He wasn't following you because of you. He was using you to get to me. That doesn't make sense. I don't even know you. You teach at an academy in Gangnam. My organization owns the building. Park must have identified you as a potential access point. Someone foreign, isolated, easy to manipulate or threaten. His jaw tightened. If I'd let you go that night, he would have found you and interrogated you, probably killed you when you couldn't give him useful information. The room tilted. I sat back down heavily. So he wasn't stalking me. I was just collateral. You were a tool, and now you're a complication. Jin-sun poured himself a drink. If Park knows you disappeared the same night his surveillance went dark, he'll assume I have you. which means the iron snakes will be watching for any sign you're still alive. So I can never leave. Not until this is resolved. He took a long drink. Park being involved changes things. Police involvement means I can't just eliminate the problem quietly. I need to be strategic. I laughed, a harsh, broken sound. This is insane. A week ago, I was teaching verb tenses to teenagers, and now I'm trapped in a Mafia safe house because some corrupt cop wanted to use me as bait. Jin-sun said nothing. He just stared into his glass like it held answers. What happens when this is resolved? I asked quietly. When you figure out your strategy, what happens to me? I don't know yet. At least he was honest. 2 more days passed. Jin-sun's routine remained unpredictable, but I started noticing patterns. The way he checked his phone constantly. The tension in his shoulders when certain names appeared on his screen. The nights he came home and poured 2 drinks instead of 1, though he never offered me any. On the 6th night, he came home with a split knuckle, blood seeping through a hastily wrapped bandage. He went straight to the bathroom, running water in the sink. I don't know what possessed me, but I followed. And I found him trying to clean the wound one-handed, his movements frustrated and clumsy. Let me help, he looked at me sharply. Go back to your room. You can't bandage it properly with one hand. Just let me help. For a long moment he didn't move. Then slowly he extended his injured hand. I cleaned the wound carefully, using supplies from the first aid kit. The split was deep, probably from punching someone. His hands were scarred, old wounds layered over each other, a map of violence. I wrapped the bandage snugly, professionally. My father had been a nurse before he died. He'd taught me the basics. Thank you, Jin-sun said quietly. I looked up, surprised. It was the first time he'd said anything resembling courtesy. You're welcome? He studied me, and for the first time, I saw something behind the cold calculation, a flicker of something human, exhaustion maybe, or recognition that I wasn't just a problem to be solved, but a person. The man who was kneeling that night, he said suddenly, he's alive. I negotiated his release yesterday. He'll live, but he's banished from Seoul. That's the best outcome he could have hoped for. Why are you telling me this? Because you asked. Because you seem to care. He pulled his hand back, flexing his fingers to test the bandage. And because I'm tired of pretending you're not a person. The admission hung between us, heavy and unexpected. I didn't want this, I said. Any of this. Neither did I. He leaned against the sink. But here we are. Silence stretched. Not uncomfortable, just present. 2 people trapped in circumstances neither had chosen, and trying to navigate something neither understood. Get some sleep, Jin-sun finally said. Tomorrow might get complicated. I left him there, returning to my room. But for the first time since arriving, I didn't feel quite so alone. The locks clicked. I was still a prisoner. But something had shifted. The next morning, Jin-sun didn't leave. That alone told me something was wrong. He sat at the kitchen counter, phone face down, staring at his untouched coffee like it had personally offended him. The tension radiating from him was palpable, different from the controlled danger I'd grown accustomed to. Around noon, the locks on the penthouse door clicked. I tensed, but Jin-sun didn't move. He knew who was coming. An older man entered, late 60s, impeccably dressed in a tailored navy suit. He had Jin-sun's sharp eyes, but where Jin-sun's held calculation, this man's held cold judgment. The family resemblance was unmistakable. They spoke in Korean, voices low but heated. I stayed in the kitchen doorway, trying to be invisible. The older man's gaze flicked to me once, dismissive and cutting, before returning to his son. Jin Sun's responses were controlled, but I could see his jaw tightening with each exchange. His father said something sharp, gestured toward me with contempt, then turned and left as abruptly as he'd arrived. The silence that followed was suffocating. "That was your father," I said quietly. "Yes." "What did he say?" Jin Sun finally looked at me. "That mercy is weakness. That hiding you proves I'm unfit to lead, that I've compromised everything our family built because I couldn't follow one simple rule." He stood, moving to the window. "Oh, he's not wrong." "What does that mean?" "It means I have about 12 hours before the iron snakes know exactly where you are." My blood went cold. He told them? He will, to prove a point, to force my hand. Jin Sun's reflection in the window was eerily calm. "My father believes if I'm cornered, I'll revert to instinct, kill you myself to save face, show the underworld that the ghost is still ruthless." "And will you?" He turned to face me. No. The certainty in that single word should have reassured me. Instead, it terrified me, because I understood what it meant. He'd chosen me over his empire, over his reputation, over everything that had kept him alive in this world. Then what do? We prepare. He pulled out his phone, typing rapidly. "They'll come tonight, multiple teams, professional. The iron snakes don't make mistakes." "Can't we run?" "They'll have people watching every exit, the garage, the lobby, the roof. Running just means dying in a stairwell instead of here." He pocketed his phone. "But if we make them think I'm following the old rules, if we make them believe I'm going to execute you myself, we might buy enough confusion to create an opening." "An opening for what?" "For you to get out." He moved to a panel in the wall I'd never noticed, pressing his palm against it. The panel slid aside, revealing an arsenal, handguns, knives, ammunition. He began selecting weapons with practiced efficiency. "There's a service corridor 2 floors down. It connects to a neighboring building. If I can get you there during the chaos, you might make it to street level." "What about you?" "I'll be right behind you." He was lying. I could see it in the way he wouldn't meet my eyes. "Jin Sun, learn how to use this." He handed me a compact pistol. "Safety here. Point and shoot. Don't hesitate." My hand shook as I took it. The metal was cold, heavier than I expected. "You won't need to." "Probably. But if someone gets past me, you don't negotiate. You don't freeze. You survive." He moved around the apartment, checking windows, reinforcing the door locks. "They'll come around midnight. 3, maybe 4 teams. They'll breach simultaneously. Front door, windows, possibly the roof access." "How do you know?" "Because it's what I would do." We spent the afternoon in tense preparation. Jin Sun taught me basic defensive positions, how to move through the apartment without silhouetting myself against windows. He was patient but clinical, treating me like a soldier, being prepped for battle rather than a civilian who'd stumbled into hell. As the sun set, painting Seoul's skyline in shades of amber and violet, Jin Sun pulled the blackout curtains closed. The apartment plunged into strategic darkness, lit only by dim emergency lighting. "Stay in the bedroom until I call for you," he said. "No matter what you hear." "Jin Sun, promise me." I promised, even though we both knew I might break it. They came at 11:47 p.m. I was sitting on the bedroom floor, back against the wall, pistol in my lap, when I heard the first breach. Not the front door, the windows. Glass shattering in the living room, multiple points of entry. Shouts in Korean, gunfire. I pressed myself smaller, finger hovering over the safety like Jin Sun had taught me. More gunfire. Something heavy hit the floor. A man screamed, then silence, brief and terrible, before the chaos resumed. The bedroom door burst open. I raised the pistol, hands shaking violently. "It's me." Jinsun's voice cut through my panic. Blood streaked his face from a cut above his eyebrow, but he moved with deadly efficiency. "We're going. Now." He pulled me up, keeping low, navigating through the darkened apartment. Bodies lay in the living room. I didn't look at their faces. Couldn't. The windows were shattered, night air rushing in along with distant sirens. Jinsun led me to a door I'd assumed was a closet. Inside was a service shaft, narrow and dark. "Down 2 floors, exit on the right. Don't stop for anything." "You're coming with me." "I will. Go." I hesitated. Behind us, more glass shattered. Fresh gunfire. Jinsun shoved me into the shaft. "Oh, go." I descended the metal ladder, my breath echoing in the confined space. 2 floors down, I found the exit, a door that opened into a sterile corridor lit by emergency lighting. I pushed through, looking back up the shaft. Jinsun wasn't following. Above me, gunfire intensified. Shouts. A grenade's distinctive percussion, muffled by distance. I stood frozen, every instinct screaming at me to climb back up. Then the shaft's access door above slammed shut. He'd locked me out. I ran. Through the corridor, following the path Jinsun had described. Down concrete stairs, my footsteps too loud, my breathing ragged. I emerged into the neighboring building's parking garage, disoriented and terrified. A car was waiting, engine running, driver's door open. No driver. Jinsun had planned this, every detail. I climbed in, barely knew how to drive, but adrenaline guided my hands. The garage exit opened onto a side street. I pulled out into Seoul's night traffic, hands gripping the wheel so hard my knuckles went white. My phone, Jinsun's phone, I realized, left in the cup holder, buzzed. A single text message. "Bridge. Gangnam. Come now." The Gangnam Industrial Overpass was deserted at this hour, a concrete relic scheduled for demolition. I parked where the text directed, stepping out into cold wind that cut through my thin sweater. Jinsun stood at the bridge's center, bloodied and weaponless. Behind him, the iron snakes had formed a line, 6 men, all armed. In the opposite direction, I could see police lights approaching, still distant but closing in. He'd trapped himself between his enemies and the law. "Tanya?" Jinsun's voice carried across the empty space. "Walk toward the police. And don't stop. Don't look back." "What are you doing?" "Ending this." He stood perfectly still as the iron snakes advanced. "You walk away. You forget Seoul. You forget me. You go home. You live." One of the men shouted something in Korean, demanding I be handed over. Jinsun responded calmly, his hands visible and empty. I should have run, should have taken the escape he'd orchestrated. Instead, I walked toward him. "Tanya, no." I reached into my pocket, pulling out the pistol I'd somehow kept through everything. I didn't aim it at anyone. I just held it, a statement that I wasn't helpless prey anymore. The iron snakes faltered. Jinsun's expression shifted from anger to something that looked almost like pride. "Together or not at all," I said quietly. For 3 seconds, the bridge existed in perfect stillness. Then Jinsun's hand moved to his pocket. The explosion came from his abandoned car, parked strategically between us and the iron snakes. Not huge. He wasn't trying to kill, just create chaos. Smoke and fire erupted, men diving for cover, the bridge shaking. Jinsun grabbed my hand, pulling me toward the police line. We ran through smoke and confusion, my legs burning, lungs screaming. Behind us, gunfire erupted, the iron snakes firing blindly, the police returning shots. We were 10 meters from the police barricade when Jin Sun stopped abruptly. "Keep going." "What?" "They need someone to arrest, someone to blame. If we both try to cross, they'll shoot first and sort it out later." He pressed something into my hand. Documents, IDs, money. "But if I surrender, if I confess to everything, they'll protect you. Witness testimony. I'm victim." "Jin Sun, you were kidnapped by the ghost, held for ransom. You escaped during a gang war. That's the story." He stepped back, hands raising above his head as police flooded toward us. "Tell them that story, Tanya. Make them believe it." Officers swarmed him, forcing him to the ground. I tried to reach him, but other hands pulled me back, away, someone wrapping a blanket around my shoulders and guiding me toward an ambulance. I looked back once. Jin Sun was on his knees, hands cuffed behind his back, surrounded by officers. His eyes found mine across the chaos. He smiled, small, genuine, free. Then they pushed him into a police van, and he was gone. 6 months later, I stood in Incheon International Airport, boarding pass in hand. The police had questioned me for weeks. Jin Sun had confessed to everything: kidnapping, extortion, organized crime, murders both real and fabricated. His confession was so complete, so damning, that my testimony was barely needed. The prosecutor told me he'd likely spend the rest of his life in prison. No parole, no appeals. He'd made sure of it. I'd asked if I could visit him, just once. They'd refused. Civilian safety concerns. I was the victim. He was the monster. The lines were clear. I'd tried anyway, pulled every string I could. Finally, 3 weeks ago, a lawyer had delivered a message. Jin Sun had specifically requested I not visit. Didn't want me to see him behind bars, wanted me to remember him differently. The message included one line he'd asked the lawyer to relay. "You reminded me I was still human. That's enough." Now I was going home, leaving Seoul, leaving Korea, leaving everything behind. And the American embassy had arranged everything: new documents, trauma counseling, a flight back to Chicago where my aunt still lived. I'd never teach again, never see Seoul's neon-lit streets, never taste the coffee from the shop near my old apartment. But I was alive. I boarded the plane, found my window seat, buckled in. As we taxied toward the runway, I looked out at Seoul one last time. The city where I'd been hunted, imprisoned, and saved. Where a man who'd built an empire on violence had chosen mercy and paid for it with everything. The plane lifted off. Korea fell away beneath us, replaced by clouds and empty sky. I closed my eyes and whispered a goodbye he'd never hear. Somewhere, in a maximum security prison, Jin Sun was sitting in a cell he'd chosen. He'd traded invisibility for visibility, freedom for consequence, and the ghost for a name in a prison registry. He'd chosen me, and I'd carry that choice for the rest of my life. The flight attendant asked if I needed anything. I shook my head, turning back to the window. Below, Seoul glittered in the afternoon sun, beautiful and deadly and forever out of reach. I was free, and somehow, that felt like the loneliest thing in the world.